Welcome to Lysekil Women's Match 2018. We're live here from the beautiful shores of the west coast of Sweden, coming into flight 8 of the first round robin. For those of you who haven't been to a match racing event before, the round robin is where all teams face off against each other to duke it out to see who will proceed to the quarterfinals. We have 3 very exciting matches coming up. In the first one, we have Sweden's Sanna Mattsson sailing in Kleppen, going against Finland's Antonia Degerlund in BMW. Second match is Henriette Koch from Denmark sailing in Switzerland against Frances Margot Venat in Prime. And third match, very exciting Swedish derby, Johanna Bergqvist sailing in Emerson and Anna Östling sailing in Sebago. It's David against Goliath, the now not so much rookie anymore, Johanna Bergqvist, currently ranked 5th in the world, going up against Anna Östling, who's ranked 1st in the world. These two teams have faced off before here in Lysekil, and last year, actually, we had Bergqvist creating a huge upset then when she actually beat Anna in the round robin. And we're already into sequence for the first graphic from Berge, who will help us see some interesting data from the boats, such as wind speed, direction, ley lines, and also, because it's very hard to see from where we're sitting at the shore, we have ladders so we can see which boat is actually ahead if they're on the same tack, but with a bit of separation. And we have the 4-minute signal for the first start in this flight 8. As I mentioned before, it's Sanna Mattsson coming in the Kleppen boat against Finland's Antonia Degerlund. And it's a bit of a must-win for both teams. Both teams have had very tight matches, but neither one has actually won a match yet. So this will be good for one of the teams, because at least one of them will go from all losses to at least 1 win in this round robin. Right now we have a bit of a standstill as both teams and skippers try to fight who can get the best position. And we see it's in the yellow Kleppen boat, Sanna Mattsson leading behind Finland's Antonia Degerlund in the blue BMW boat. As both boats race back towards the starboard side of the line, Antonia Degerlund opts to tack to end up behind Mattsson again, but Mattsson is right there with her, and we see both boats circling. And they do this because they want to gain the better position coming up to that starting line. It is a much easier game if you win the start, and by winning the start, you want to actually be the first off the bats, because it's way easier leading. You have your pick of way around the course. You have free air and less disturbed time sailing. Both boats are now sailing down way below the line, turning up again. And as they tack over to starboard, it will be Sanna Mattsson with right of way, as she is the leeward boat. So the leeward boat has right of way when both boats are on the same tack, that is, having the same sails on the same side. Opting to get out of that hairy position, Antonia Degerlund opts to tack and circle around again, trying to gain an advantage in this start. And we have less than 2 minutes to go, 1 minute 30 on the clock as the boats are circling. Antonia Degerlund has probably decided she wants the right-hand side of the line. In the morning, in the lighter breeze, it was definitely the side with the advantage. But in the afternoon, we've seen some upsetters coming in from the left with strong gusts of wind. Both boats still circling with almost only a minute to go. And maybe that was the last spin we'll see from these two teams. It is Sanna Mattsson who's first to start getting closer to the line, but if we can go to Bergecam, we will see that she will have to... Ser inte jag den nu? We see that it's Antonia Degerlund trying to ensure that Sanna Mattsson cannot accelerate and thus getting the better start. And we're starting now. I would like to call that start goes to Team Degerlund of Finland. She had the way better acceleration gunning out of the starting line. And as we can also see on the two boats, Sanna Mattsson with the lighter team has way more of a heel. Heel is when the boat is leaning a bit more, and generally you want to avoid this because having too much of a heel on your boat will make you lose speed, spill wind, and not be able to go as high. And we can see at Sanna obviously realizing so she couldn't hold that position, so she tacks away. Antonia, wanting to cover her, opts to tack straight after. And as the boat races out towards the starboard side of the course, it looks pretty even, both boats with clear air. And we're following these boat ups, but we will soon swap to the second match of the 8th flight, which is Danish skipper Henriette Koch in Svitzer boat against Margot Venat. And it's two relatively rookie teams in some sense. Margot Venat used to sail with Pauline Courtois, who is the second-ranked competitor in this competition, against Henriette Koch, who makes her debut as a skipper here in Lysekil, but her crew, on the other hand, is very experienced Team Katnacken, usually helmed by Trina Paludan. With 3 minutes to go, both boats are vying for position. It's on the leeward side in the Svitzer boat, the Danish team. To windward, we have the French team, skippered by Margot Venat in the Prime boat. And we can see that both bows are trying to control that jib to ensure that they don't fall out of position. And it is the Danish boat, skippered by Henriette, who's first to accelerate. She wants to make it over to the starboard side of the line, and obviously Margot Venat is trying to block her from doing that. And the Danish team actually managed to get across Margot Venat, getting out of that sticky situation. It's always a bit of a disadvantage being on the blue side, as we call it, or explaining it to you guys, actually coming in from port, meaning that as you gate in, you have to keep clear of the other boat. And we are with Berge graphics here, allowing us to see where the starting line is. We can see on the graphics that both boats are ahead of the starting line, going out to the starboard side. And it is Margot Venat as the leeward boat trying to prevent Henriette Koch to jibe. Henriette has to do something else, decides to head upwind. Now in the leeward position, but actually on port. So if either boat decides to tack, it is their advantage. And she tries again, going for the jibe, and actually makes it around. We see now as Henriette Koch tries to decide when she wants to accelerate for the line. We have about 50 seconds left as both boats are starting to move their way up to the starting line, coming very close to the cliffs here at Lysekil. I tell you, as a sailor, those cliffs, they're a bit scary when you have your kite up. But that shouldn't be an issue here today. We have 7 meters per second. Nice sort of wind going on. It's increased from this morning when we saw much lighter conditions. And it is the Svitzer boat leading with the Danes, leading up to the line, but we still have a few seconds to go. And I think what Venan is trying to do is forcing the Danish boat over the line early. You're not allowed to start early. If you do, you have to go back underneath and actually start proper. And that is what happened. We can actually see a yellow flag and a blue flag up on the starting boats, meaning both boats were over, but it's the yellow line that was first to come down, meaning that Venan was the first boat to come under the line and actually start. Match racing is a bit peculiar in that sense, because actually starting on time isn't necessarily the name of the game. You just want to make sure that you're ahead of your competitor. Or, on the contrary side, if you want to start early, you just got to make sure that you push the other boat to be even earlier, so that you are the first boat that clears the line and actually does a proper start. That yellow line at the front of the preem boat indicates that that it's actually Venin of France who is ahead of Henriette Koch from Denmark. But as both boats head towards the cliffs, they will tack back to starboard, meaning that Venin, if she decides to go back, Henriette Koch of Denmark has to keep clear. And as she does exactly this, we'll see if Henriette opts to duck or to actually tack with Margot. But we have a cross. So clear lead from Venin in this second game of the 8th flight. No penalties in this game, meaning that if the advantage to Venin stands, she can just cruise to the finish line. But ladies and gentlemen, we still have a long way to go. They have to go up to the windward mark, then hoist their gennaker, go down to the leeward mark, and then up again to the starting line. And we only have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the third match of this 8th flight, and it's actually a Swedish derby. Team Anna Östling in the Sabaga boat against Johanna Bergqvist in Emerson. And we can see that both boats are heading out towards starboard, meaning that Bergqvist, from her port disadvantage, if you will, has actually managed to make it somewhat across towards the starboard side. You don't want to be stuck in loser's corner. Loser's corner is to the left of the course, outside of the starting line. But it seems like Anna, as the leeward boat, is in control and is preventing Johanna Bergqvist to jibe. As we come up, Anna is, and we see Johanna opting to tack, Anna opting to jibe. So Anna is still in that leeward position, meaning that Johanna Bergqvist actually has to keep clear. But both boats are racing back towards the starting line, and Johanna's game here is she would like to roll over Anna to be able to duck back out to starboard. But as we saw in a previous game, nobody puts Anna Östling in a corner, and Johanna is struggling very hard to regain control. But so far, I'd say first blood in this pre-start to Team Anna and her experienced team. And that was the 1 minute signal, meaning we have 1 minute left to go, and both boats will want to position themselves to actually start. Johanna Bergqvist is first to head up towards the line, hunted by Anna, who will try and lock her out. And as both boat tacks, because Anna is the leeward boat, she can potentially push Johanna Bergqvist to be early. With only 30 seconds to go, I'd say both teams have got some time to spill. Johanna is first to tack and probably will head towards... Oh no, she goes for another jibe. And 15 seconds to go. we might actually see a penalty situation here as Johanna Bergqvist tacks super close leeward of Team Anna. And with the way better acceleration, the start goes to Team Anna. Johanna now tacks to get clear air, but Anna not missing a beat, following directly. And as both boats head out to starboard of the course, it is a definite advantage for Team Anna, giving all of her dirty air, disturbed air to Team Bergqvist. It looks from here that Team Bergqvist is opting to go for a bit what we call a speed mode, so going at a slightly lower angle. We can see that on the screen as well, to try and accelerate away from Team Anna, hoping to avoid some dirty air. And Anna seems to have her every move as both boats head out to starboard. And we see that white boat straight behind them, that's the umpire boat. So every game is umpired directly, meaning that any situation that happens between these two boats will be umpired straight away. If the umpire boat hoists the yellow flag, means that Anna has been in the wrong and will have to take a penalty turn. If he hoists a blue flag, it's a penalty to Team Bergqvist. And Bergqvist deciding she needs to get out of there, tacking in, with Anna tacking straight in her nose. And normally I think Johanna would tack, as she does now, but she has to be cautious, because if she comes too far out of the right, she will be way over ley line. That means the line that you sail to reach the top mark. They're only about halfway up on this upwind, so she probably still has some time to go. And we see her now tacking back, following Anna back in towards the mark. And it's an interesting one. So as I mentioned before, last time these two met in a round robin here at Lysekil, Johanna actually made a huge upset, then still quite some rookie. Won against the giants of this competition, Team Anna. And we'll leave this match briefly to catch the finish of Kleppen and BMW. It's Antonia Degerlund in the BMW boat and Sanna Mattsson in the Kleppen boat. We can see that with the Lysekil women's match kite and the blue bow, Team Degerlund is opting to go starboard, and Sanna Mattsson with the Kleppen boat, the purple one, has decided to go out on the port side. So we have a huge split between the two boats as they come down from the last rounding. And neither of these teams have actually secured a win so far in the event. So at least one of them will be happy to tidy up the scoreboard a bit. We have a jibe from... And we're back to match 3. It's Östling v Bergqvist, the Swedish derby. Anna Östling leading the way over young gun Johanna Bergqvist. Johanna Bergqvist now tacking to get out of that dirty air given to her by Team Anna. Anna continues on, probably deciding she is on the starboard lay, meaning that she's doesn't have to tack to reach the top mark. But unlike fleet racing, you actually round the marks the other way in match racing. So meaning that when you round the mark, you will actually be at the port disadvantage. But as we can see here, that won't be an issue as Team Anna has extended into a huge lead. And this is what I love about graphics. See, I called it they were on ley line, but as we can see on the graphics, it looks like they're actually about a boat length or two underneath. But being this far ahead, that might give them the advantage of having a nice hoist. And as they're rounding the mark, bow of Anna's team will have to work super quickly to get that kite up. And we can see the kite is up, it's not yet flying, and there we go. Johanna Bergqvist rounding about 15 seconds behind, so it might not sound like much, but in match racing that is quite a substantial lead and advantage to Team Anna. As we have no penalties thus far in this game, what Anna now wants to do is sail safely and fast and just avoid any kind of entanglements with Johanna. And she should be able to sail smartly and can actually leave strategy behind a little bit and just opt for the fastest way to the mark and really choose where she wants to take this game. Johanna obviously needs to do the other thing and wants to create a situation where she gets separation, trying to get to catch Team Anna. So she's opted to jibe, and we can see a huge split between these boats coming down towards the leeward mark. And these boats are not heading to the finish line. They've only done one upwind, so they will come down to the leeward mark, the yellow cylinder, round that, and then head up to the top mark again. And Team Anna has now jibed, and so has Johanna Bergqvist, meaning we will see a downwind cross, and that will actually give us an indication of how far ahead Team Anna actually is. Has Johanna gained some? We don't know, but by the way it looks of it, it's still a substantial lead for Team Anna. Team Anna sailing in the Sebago boat. And here we can see on the graphics that with the top angle that Johanna Bergqvist is still some bit far behind, and what she can do is obviously try and separate as much as she can, hoping to get a bigger puff that Anna won't, and also obviously hoping that Anna will have some trouble getting down her kite. But then again, Anna has a very experienced team with twins Linnea and Annie working very hard and synchronized on bow and on trim. And Johanna has now jibed again. We'll see if Anna opts to follow her. She will extend out to the ley line so that she can get a clean rounding. And I keep mentioning this clean. So a clean rounding is when everything comes down as you want it, and that you, when you head to the upwind, that your kite is safely inside your boat, not trawling underneath the boat. And Team Anna, experienced as she is, does just this. She gets a great rounding and has extended almost. It looks like she's almost more than 20 seconds ahead of Team Bergqvist now. And this is actually quite some upset for Bergqvist. She was 4 for 4 before this game. So apparently it took some old school racing and a lot of routine to knock these young guns out of their game. And we can see on the screen they're struggling with their kite. So that was a unclean rounding, as I would say. So with that, Anna actually gets upwind way quicker, accelerates faster, and is probably extending her lead by some more seconds. And as Anna has a substantial lead, we'll head over to match 2 again. It's Margot Venat from France against Denmark's Henriette Koch. And they're heading down to their finish. With the green kite, we have Margot Venat, and with the Switzer, it's Henriette Koch of Denmark and Team Katnaken. And it actually looks like Margot Venat is into some trouble as she's got an hourglass on her kite. As you can imagine, this is not a very fast way to sail. And we can see that Switzer is quickly catching up to her as Margot Venat is in all kinds of trouble. And we actually have a blue penalty in this game, and that means that we have a penalty on the boat that came in from port, and that is the Danish team. But as they're extended on the downwind, they might have actually time to take it before Margot Venat manages to sort her kite out. It looks like she has an hourglass in 2 spots, with the kite actually being twisted around her forestay. So she's now sailing only on her mainsail, while Henrietta is cruising down towards the finish line, all sails flying, coming in hot. But if we see the flags on the umpire boat correctly, the Switzer boat might actually have to take a penalty. And now finally we see that Margot has got her kite sorted and trying to catch up to the Danes. And we see that the Danes are now dropping their kite. You're not allowed to take a penalty with your kite still up, and it's a race to the finish line now for Margot Venin, who wants to stick her nose down the starting line first, and it all depends on whether the Danes can twist their boat quick enough. And it looks like they might actually make it by the skin of their teeth. And the Danes, having got the situation dialed in, managing to actually win this game because Margot Venin had her kite in a twist for most of the downwind, allowing Denmark to third match. And after that victory, we'll head out to the third game and only start still running in this 8th flight. It's Team Anna who has extended a huge lead over Johanna Bergqvist. And as we see them now on the screen, they're just rounding, and it looks like they've extended even further. This is a home run for Team Anna. Anna had 1 loss earlier in the day, but will now go 4 wins, 1 loss. Pretty good scorecard. And Anna with the Sebago Spinnaker looks to be in great shape. Team really dialed in, coming down smoothly. And Johanna still hasn't managed to get her kite flying. It's up, and there we go. So I think all Johanna Bergqvist can do now is pray for a miracle, and maybe that Anna decides to try and catch some fish with her kite. Otherwise, this is going to be a home run for Team Anna. Both team locals, both training for the same club, GKSS in Gothenburg, the Royal Gothenburg Yacht Club. Both actually practicing quite a lot in this boat. But there were some discussions because Anna Östling has actually been competing quite a lot in the M32. She took home the women's trophy in Marstrand earlier this summer. But it seems like she still got the magic touch when it comes to monohull. And actually cleaning up from last year where she actually lost to Johanna Bergqvist in the round robin. We have a cross and we can see that Anna is way ahead, and all she wants to do now is just sail that boat fast straight over the finish line to get her 4th victory for this round robin. And after this race, we will have some boat swaps because all boats will have sailed 5 matches. So the only one still left with a perfect score is Pauline Courtois of France. Johanna Bergqvist had a clean streak, but now as she's losing to Team Anna, will have her first loss on the scorecard. And cruising towards the finish line, Anna has to do one last jibe to make it over the finish line. And it's a great jibe. That kite is flying straight after she makes the turn, and that's what you want. You want to minimize the time that that kite is not up and flying, because as you can see in relationship to the mainsail, it is huge. Last year when we got these boats, the first practice day was a lot of heavy breeze, and a lot of teams were struggling on that first day in the waves, and a lot of boats were heading up towards the rocks. As not used to sailing with these asymmetrical kites. But now we're actually moving a bit towards it. And as Anna crosses the finish line, we'll see the yellow flag. They will actually go head to head, being tied for second in this early stages of the round robin. So France, Sweden, Sweden, early standings of the round robin. As Team Anna takes her 4th win for today, high-fiving her team, smiling as always, waving to the camera. She knows her camera angles, that lady. And we will have a bit of a break now as we have some boat changes underway. The next flight we will be joining in on is Flight 9 with Britain's Octavia Owen facing off against Marinella Laaksonen of Finland. Then it's Leroy from France against Kochkina of Russia. Alexa Bazal from Switzerland against Pauline Courtois from France. And as we see on the graphic here, if you wonder why the names aren't sorted by who's at the top, it's because the list is sorted of rankings going in. So first rank into this competition is Anna Östling of Sweden. Second is Pauline Courtois. And then after that it's Marinella Laaksonen. And we pride ourselves on having the best female match racers here in Lysekil. And I can tell you, Johanna Bergqvist is ranked 5th in the world, and she's ranked number 4th in this competition. So the only team missing, but not really missing, is Caroline Sylvan of Sweden. But her team is actually sailing with Claire Leroy. So New Sweden match racing team are actually in this competition, just with a slightly different flag and skipper. And Leroy is actually no stranger to Lysekil. She has been here, not for a while, but she has definitely sailed here before. But back then... Okay, so we're having a bit of a break here as the teams swap boats. We only have 6 boats and we have 12 teams, so as you may understand, we have some boat changes. See all the little rib boats speeding around with teams about to heading to the later stages as we go into Flight 9. So all teams have actually sailed 5 races each as we're coming in. We will be back with you in a second. And we are done with the boat changes here in Lysekil as we head into flight 9. In the first match, we have Britain's Octavia Owen sailing in Kleppen against Marinella Laaksonen from Finland sailing in BMW. Second match, we have Claire Leroy in Switzer, and in Preem we have Ekaterina Kochkina from Russia making her debut here in Lysekil. In the third match we have Switzerland's Bezel against Courtois from France. And we are already into the warning signal for the first sequel, meaning that we have less than 7 minutes to go for the first start. And we can see the boats both preparing themselves for their gate-ins as they're circling around here atop of the starting line. As I mentioned, Kleppen, the yellow boat with young sailor Octavia Owen, who actually celebrated her birthday yesterday. Congratulations, Octavia. Against Marinella Laaksonen from Finland with her team L2. And Laaksonen actually came from a great result in the past WIM series. She won the round robin on her home turf in Helsinki, sadly lost in her semi-finals and got beaten by Pauline Courtois in the match for third prize, but still fourth in a World Cup is a great event. And I am sorry, Octavia, but you actually have your birthday today. Congratulations. Let's see if we can add some more wins to that scorecard as a birthday gift. And as we can see now on the graphics, we have 4 minutes and 35 seconds to go. Both boats will come in towards the starting line at 4 minutes gating in. And on the Switzer boat, we see something. They're struggling with their kite as they're smack in the middle of the starting line. The Switzer boat with Claire Leroy at the helm, and the crew actually coming from the New Sweden match racing team, usually skippered by Team Sylvan, trying to get out of the way for the match that's about to start. We see BMW now with Marinella Laaksonen as she comes into her gate. She has the advantage as she is the starboard boat. So as both boats meet, Octavia Owen will have to keep clear, which is why she's now tacking to avoid a collision, because if she had, she would have been at fault. And Marinella Laaksonen opts to tack back to slow herself down to vie for the better position. And we see both bow women up on foredeck trying to control that kite. You don't want to glide too far forward, because that means you leave room for the other boat to actually maneuver, which is what you want to try and avoid. And Marinella Laaksonen actually extends away now from Octavia Owen, and she's going to circle around to try and keep Octavia out of a good starting position. And she comes up, and at this situation Octavia will actually have to keep clear, and she does so, meaning that Marinella Laaksonen will have to tack back to follow her. So we'll probably see some circling around here with a bit of a cat and mouse game, because you want to be the boat who guns out of that starting line the first. And we see both teams coming down towards the cliff, and the audience here in Lysekil with Antonia Owen the closest to the cliffs, followed by Marinella Laaksonen, who has slowed down significantly in her BMW boat. As Owen decides to go upwind and tack, she will be starboard boat. But if Marinella Laaksonen can stay inside of her, inside means between Owen and the starting line, she will actually be the right-of-way boat. But now they're still heading out towards port, and as we can see from the graphics, both boats quite slow, having their sails sort of flopping about. And these boats are a bit special. They're super light, so they don't have the momentum that the more traditional keel boats have. So they stop super quickly, which can be good if you're trying to maneuver. but it can also be super detrimental in the light winds, as the waves or unsynced crew movements will make you completely lose your speed. And we have 1 minute and 15 seconds to go as boats are actually sailing away from the starting line. It might seem counterintuitive, but they do so because they don't want to be at the wrong side of that starting line before the starting signal. And that was the 1 minute signal for you. I'd say both teams definitely have got some time to spill. And when I say this time to spill, it means that if they were to sail going for the line right now, they would be way too early for the start. And I'd say it's advantage Laaksonen, as she is the leeward boat, meaning Octavia will have to keep clear, and she can prevent Octavia from accelerating going for the line. 30 seconds to go. And Marinella Laaksonen trying to work her way up to Octavia Owen with that leeward advantage. And Owen obviously deciding that that wasn't a position for her. Tacks going for the windward mark to port. But tacks again as Marinella Laaksonen tacked with her. And now she is the starboard boat, forcing Laaksonen to tack. And as the starting signal goes, we see that while Marinella Laaksonen is the leeward boat, Octavia Owen, because she tacked earlier, had a bit more time to accelerate. So now it's up to Marinella Laaksonen to try and accelerate that boat so that Octavia can't roll over her. And as both boats head out to port, we can see that while Marinella Laaksonen is in the advantage of being the leeward boat, Octavia Owen can prevent her from tacking. Octavia Owen, obviously having slightly less speed, deciding that she couldn't maintain her position, is forced to tack back, and Marinella Laaksonen tries to tack with her. So both boats now sailing for port. The yellow boat is with Octavia Owen of Britain, and Marinella Laaksonen in the blue BMW boat of Finland. And we are leaving that match for a minute. We'll come back to them later. We're now into the second match of this ninth flight. It's Claire Leroy in Switzer against Russia's Ekaterina Kochkina in the Preem boat. Preem boat with the green bow and Switzer with the purple bow. And as both boats are now actually going backwards, we can see the bow women holding that jib out to either side to try and direct the boat so that they can come out of this standstill, guns blazing, accelerating. And while it's Ekaterina Kochkina who is first to accelerate out, I'd say Leroy actually got what she wanted out of that, because she wants to get out of being stuck towards the left of the course. And she manages to do so, doing that hold up slightly better than Russia's Ekaterina Kochkina. And we see that the boats have a yellow and a blue flag respectively at the back of the boats. The yellow flag indicates that you gate in from starboard, the blue flag indicating that you're coming in from port. Right now, we see Ekaterina Kochkina actually tacking, but Clara not missing a beat, tacking underneath her to maintain that leeward boat position, meaning she can prevent Kochkina from actually getting under the line. And are now sailing down, making their way underneath the line, so they have to start below that yellow line. And as they're tacking back, we see the purple boat with Claire Leroy jibing around, wanting to control the situation, doing a bit of cat and mouse game, wanting to end up behind Kochkina, trying to keep her away from the starting line, positioning herself between Kochkina and the starting line. And now we see Leroy actually tacking back to starboard, and she's hunting Kochkina back. If she can make her way underneath, she will be leeward boat again. And obviously the name of the game for Kochkina here is to do what she just did and roll over, preventing Leroy from getting underneath her so that she can't be pushed up by Leroy. With 43 seconds to go, both teams have got some time to actually kill before they start, because these boats are fast, and I tell you, they haven't got 30 seconds to sail to that line. They're just a few boat lengths below, and Kochkina is the one in real trouble here, because she can't tack to make her way over a bit more to starboard, so she has to try and stay there and go for the pin end mark or the leeward mark. And it looks like we will have a split start, with Kochkina opting to go for the left mark of the course, and Leroy with New Sweden Match Racing Team actually starting in the middle of the line. As both boats have tacked, I will definitely say that it is advantage Leroy, as she managed to tack slightly in front of Kochkina, giving her disturbed air, leading the way of both boats heading out to starboard. And we talk about this disturbed air. So disturbed air is when your sail and the wind flowing into it is actually covered by something, in this case another boat. So the sails of Leroy's boat will actually disturb the air coming into Kochkina's sails, and it will mean that Kochkina will be sailing slower. And we can see this in the graphic now, that they're about the same speed, but Kochkina is forced to go a bit lower. So she decides to do the right move and tack out of the situation, but with a seasoned skipper as Leroy, she had her move on that one and tacks to still cover her, trying to disturb her air as much as possible. And we can see that Kochkina will have to try and tack her way out of this, but possibly instigating a tacking duel, which could be advantage if you know your team has good crew management and you can tack faster than the other boat, forcing them to tack multiple times. If you can gain something in every tack, that could actually be super advantageous for the boat who is behind. Right now it actually looks like Kochkina is trying that, but the crew of Leroy, while she is a new skipper with that team, are working greatly together. And especially in these light boats, timing and actually moving your weight around, because the crew's weight is actually quite large in proportion to what the boat weighs, is super important. And you'll see the teams moving simultaneously from one side to the other, because as they tack, they want to do what we call a roll tack. So they want to get an extra pump out of that boat, sinking the weight so that you get this extra little acceleration out of each tack. Because tacking isn't actually very fast, because you're going up to the wind, essentially killing the airstream in your sail. But if you can move your crew and manage to get this roll in, you can accelerate out of a tack, making it somewhat less quick, if you will. And we see Kochkina trying to tack again, trying to avoid the disturbed air of Leroy. And Leroy, as she should be, is tacking back to try and defend her position and not letting Kochkina get out into the free air. And that is what you want to do. I mean, Kochkina obviously wants to get away from Leroy, hopefully getting out to a side where there's more wind. Starboard ley line is when you tack going for starboard and you reach the top mark. Obviously, it is not the same as the port ley line because you still have to tack to go around the mark, because in match racing you actually round the mark sort of backwards if you, like me, are an old fleet racer. So that the boat who will round the mark will always be on the port disadvantage, adding another element of strategy and tactics. And it also rewards sort of nice crew work, because tacking when you're about to hoist the kite is more difficult than coming up for port, where you can pre-hoist and have your crew in order to go around the mark. But then you're at the disadvantage of being on port tack, meaning that you have to keep clear of way. And we can see here that the Preem boat with Kochkina, boats are heading up to the windward mark, and it looks like we'll might not have a cross, but we'll definitely have a meeting, and we'll see which boat is first to round the mark. And it is Switzer, so it is Claire Leroy who has managed to keep clear and has actually extended to gain quite a substantial lead, about a 10-second lead on Russia's Kochkina. And Leroy making a great hoist. We can see her kite is already flying, while Kochkina is struggling a bit. We don't yet see that big balloon sail. And when you're on the downwind, you want to have your kite up. As we can see from these images, the proportion of the bubble sail, in this case the Jenniker, an asymmetrical version of a spinnaker, is huge compared to the mainsail, allowing you to actually sail a lot faster downwind than upwind. And as we can see from the graphics, we actually see that Leroy is actually now slowing down a little bit. Kochkina getting a puff, allowing her to sail almost a knot faster than Leroy, but Leroy still in the lead. But it looks like we have about a 4 boat length advantage for Leroy, but Kochkina gaining every meter they sail, as she is sailing way quicker at a slightly higher angle. So at higher angle means that you're sailing pointed more towards the wind direction, which with these kinds of sails actually will get you faster. So sailing higher means that you're not approaching the mark as fast. So you're actually sailing a bit further from the mark, but you might actually sail a bit quicker. And that's like the one consideration you want to make. Do I want to get closer to the mark, or do I want to sail faster? And the distance you cover combined with the angle and speed, we call that VMG, velocity made good, meaning it's a combination of how fast you sail and how much closer you're getting to the mark at every move. And as both boats have tacked, it's still Kochkina with a slightly higher speed, but sailing way higher, meaning she is sailing faster than the Switzer boat, but she's not sailing towards the mark as much as Leroy of the French team is. And these boats will now be heading towards the leeward mark, where they will take down their kite, hoist their jib, and make their way up to the top wind mark for the second time. And it looks like Leroy has quite a comfortable lead over Kochkina. So if she can make a clean takedown, getting her kite down without any mishaps, hoisting her jib on time, she will have a good position going into the second upwind. And I mean, this is not an upset. We expect Claire Leroy, while she has been away from Lysekil for a while and makes her debut in these Far East 28 boats, is a very seasoned match race skipper. She has sailed multiple times. She has gotten, I believe, a second place title in Busan, and she's been competing here in Lysekil many times before. And as the green kite of the Preem boat with Kochkina at the helm comes down, we can see that Claire Leroy is actually well ahead, going upwind, nice acceleration, and heading at about 2.6 knots. So for you who don't speak knots, that's about 5 kilometers an hour. And we see the breeze has actually decreased somewhat from previously. We're now at about 5.5 meters per second. Previously we had 7. Still, while it might not feel like much on land, with these light boats, it will mean you'll have your crew fully out hiking, trying to keep the keel off, dug into the water. So you want to sail the boats as flat as possible to ensure you have maximum height and loss of speed. So if your boat leans a lot, it means that it will slide in the water as the keel isn't actually that deep into the water. So if your boat is very heavily tilted, you will lose height. You might point very highly so that the indicator on the screen will say that you're heading at a quite high wind angle, but you will slightly slide for every meter you sail. And we can see that Leroy has got this well under control. She's tacking, she's lying straight ahead, giving Kochkina some disturbed air, with a clear sort of defending her game here. And as these boats head to the top game, you'll see that they'll actually meet some other traffic. And we have Kochkina's team now tacking, having to make their way up to that yellow cylinder buoy that is the top mark. But Switzer being well ahead of her game. And as Claire Leroy has that match pretty much under wraps, we are now coming in to the finish. You can see Marlena Laxon's crew chilling, getting their sails in order, and adding yet another victory to their score. Going 4 straight wins for Marlena Laxonen of Finland. And as we're going back to the graphics of match 2, we can see that Claire Leroy has extended her lead. She is approaching the mast. She is both in front and higher up towards the windward mark than Kochkina. And as she hits that orange line in the graphics, meaning she will be on the ley line, she will tack and sail around the mark. So those orange lines extending out from the windward mark are your ley lines. And we should see as she approaches that with her boat, she will tack relatively soon. If she extends beyond that, it's probably because she wants to have some extra margin in the event of a wind shift. And she's tacking now. We can see she's rounding the mark, way ahead of Kochkina, who's tacking behind her. And flying her kite, it's up. Leroy has extended to, I'd say, 25-second lead over Kochkina. So Kochkina will have a tough time. She will need a miracle. Otherwise, this will be a victory for Leroy of France. So normally, you will recognize a lot of the faces from Leroy's boat. It's Louise Kruse, Malin Holmberg, Frida Langenius, and team, usually sailing with skipper Caroline Sylvain. Caroline Sylvain couldn't participate in this event because she is expecting a kid any day, which is why they exchanged their skipper for Leroy of France. And usually in match racing you cannot do that, but in the WIM Series event we allow for multiple skippers. so that your team doesn't have to lose out on valuable points and competing in the event that your skipper can't make it to one of the events. So unlike most other match racing events, you're actually allowed to sail with multiple skippers, which is also why we see Henriette Koch skippering Team Katnacken, which is usually skippered by Trine Paludan of Denmark. So maintaining their original crew, you are allowed to sail with an alternate skipper from your team. And we see the boats coming down, the green kite belonging to Ekaterina Kochkina and the white kite belonging to Claire Leroy, coming down towards the finish. And we can see here from the graphic something that is very hard to see with the regular camera angle, that while it might not look from land, Leroy is actually well ahead and can just cruise towards the finish line, adding another victory to her scorecard. And Leroy has actually, this is her 4th match of the day. She lost to Pauline Courtois, but she has won 2 of the other matches. So one against Marinelle Antonia Degerlund and one against Alexa Bessel of Switzerland. And we actually have a cross here now where Leroy, going for port, will cross clear ahead of Kochkina. And we see the team now as they're approaching the finish line, that kite flying beautifully, going at a speed of 3-4 knots, but significantly slowing down in the jibe as the kite is not up and filled with air, pushing that both forward. But that was a great jibe from Leroy and team. Trimmer Clara Eklund doing a great, Ekdal doing a great job of maneuvering that big balloon. And obviously bow Malin Holmberg ensuring it doesn't get snared in the forestay, as we saw in some previous matches where different teams got into all sorts of trouble getting hourglass on that kite. And we're bringing them into the finish line now. We will head over to the 3rd match of this flight soon. It's Marinella Laaksonen of Finland with BMW against Pauline Courtois in the Sebago boat. And this is actually a giants meeting. So we have 2nd ranked into the competition Pauline Courtois from France, from Normandy, and Marinella Laaksonen from Finland, ranked 2nd and 3rd into this competition respectively. Actually took 3rd and 4th place in the past swim series that we had in Helsinki just after midsummer. And as we can see, it is the Sebago boat with Pauline Courtois leading the way with a substantial lead over Finland's Marinella Laaksonen. So it looks like we have a repeat of the Petite Finale in Helsinki, where my bad. It's actually a meeting between Alexa Bessel and Pauline Courtois, but I stand by my previous statement that Pauline is Courtois, ranked 2nd into this competition, is running away with this match. She's well on her way downwind, as we can see, and Alexa Bessel actually still has about 6 boat lengths to go before she's even rounded the mark. So it will be a home run for Pauline Courtois with Match in Pink, powered by Normandy Elite Team. They should really work on shortening their name, but nevertheless, great sailors. So Pauline Courtois, ranked 2nd into this competition against Alexa Bessel, ranked 6th going into this competition. And as we get the camera here, we see what a huge lead Pauline Courtois has. And now, about 30 seconds after Courtois got her kite flying. Bessel actually managed to get her kite up. So I'd say it's a home run for Pauline Courtois. And she has previously divulged to us that the way she keeps her team going is chocolate. Like, keep them well fed with chocolate and sailing goes great. So this match we're following now is the third match of the 9th flight. So it's Alexa Bessel in the Emerson boat against Pauline Courtois in the Sebago boat. And I wish I had more exciting news to tell you, but it's Vive la France. They're running away with this like they did with the World Cup in soccer. Just that the arena here in Lysekil is way more beautiful than any soccer stadium in the world. I might be biased, but my media crew agrees. And to be honest, female match race sailors way cooler than male soccer players. And as we get to the graphics, we'll see that Pauline Courtois is way ahead of Bessel as they're heading towards the finish line. Both boats on the same tack, sailing for starboard, cruising down to the finish line. And it looks like Pauline Courtois can sail without jibing and go straight for the finish, gaining her and her team another victory, and she is yet undefeated in this competition. She has 3 victories, one against Britain's Octavia Owen, one against Russia's Ekaterina Kochkina, and against Claire Leroy of France. So she's won this French Derby. As we take her in towards the finish line, we can see that she's actually opting for the jibe just to make sure that she crosses that finish line before her team. And we can see now that she's actually done something very interesting. She's winging her sail, so she has the kite and the mainsail on 2 opposite sides just before she decides to take her kite down. So congratulations, Pauline. As she closes up this 9th flight of the round robin here in Lysekil. And we will be back to you very soon with the very exciting flight 10. Catch you in a bit.